a video by Nerdrotic, edited by Quarter Black. Love Quarter Black. He's awesome. Called Superheroes Are Cooked, the absolute state of Marvel and DC. If you don't know who this guy is, he's had a comic book shop. Rarely ever talks about it. He, he just actually is just a good dude. He's just a good dude who loves comics, go to his channel so you could hear about his story about, I think he released a book about his life with drugs and everything. I know one of the things that really made me a big fan of his, and it made me sad at the same time, was he had, I think it was an Ewok action figure, and he talked about how he, throughout being a junkie and just trying, selling everything under the sun, stealing to get drugs, whatever, that was the one figure that he would refuse to sell. And I forget the story of why that figure was so close to him, but because of Disney, I think he did sell that figure, or was okay selling that figure, because of how betrayed he felt that Disney effed over Star Wars. And so can you imagine that? You're not going to sell an action figure and you're a freaking druggie, you're addicted, you're wanting that next fix, you're scratching, you're doing everything. You'd rather hurt other people than sell this own figure because of that love that you have for that property. And then when you get sober and clear-headed, you keep it only for some studio to just completely ruin it to the point where to you it's worse than hurting somebody. And you should just get rid of that figure. You should just sell it. That's I was like, man. And he's also funny and seems like a pretty chill dude. Why I stuck around and was a big fan of his. I remember watching his first live stream. He just kept, I don't know if it was his first live stream, but the first live stream I saw, he for 5 minutes straight, I think they just talked about kept saying whale penis or something right in the beginning of the video. I don't know. It was funny. I never saw the other guy again, and like I said, I was jumping back and forth throughout the years, but yeah, he has a great show called Friday Night Tights. But we're going to react to this video called Superheroes Are Cooked, the absolute state of Marvel and DC. So let's get to it. Fight for truth and justice in the American way. Superman, no way, dude. Hell yeah. It's a sick animation. Yeah, by the way, you're never going to see an animation that cool on my channel because I'm a retard and I can't do nothing. This is as good as it's going to get. Me and you right here. Ugliest, lowest ever, but it's chill. Maybe the lowest part is the ugliest one. Yeah. Put the volume down a little bit. And the Batman's okay. Yeah, Spider-Man! Look at that, dude. Look at this is something.
Running.
You have to listen to this hoe for a quick second. Yeah. F you, James Gunn.
Nerdrotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million lovers of all things good and dislikers of all things bad. I don't think I'm going out on a limb here by saying it hasn't been a good year for superhero films.
You think,
Many of us
dude?
said back in July of 2025, its future would be decided with the release of Superman and the Fantastic Four First Steps. And that answer came in the form of resounding mediocrity and diminishing returns. Which is sad because in many ways,
Mediocrity
superhero
is freaking
stories
awful.
are American mythology, not only woven into the fabric of pop culture, but the entire culture. For generations, superheroes have captivated us with their embodiment of ultimate power and moral clarity, offering an escape into worlds where good triumphs over evil through extraordinary abilities and unwavering resolve. Their allure lies in the vicarious thrill of overcoming impossible odds, offering escapism where people can see themselves as agents of change in a chaotic reality. Ultimately, superheroes represent hope and aspiration while inspiring imagination, reminding us that there is the potential for heroism in all of us, even if it's in small everyday acts.
Is that how you pronounce that word? Heroism. I thought it was heroism. I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of having a hard time commentating because to me this video is freaking perfect. Like, it's kind of hyping me up. Want to go outside and start a militia. But yeah, so
for a long period of time, Hollywood was able to, with varying degrees, capture this. So what the hell happened? Well, it's a tale as old as time with one recent addition: greed, hubris, ego, and a slavish adherence to the message. At time of recording, the Supergirl trailer has just dropped, and I think this opening scene pretty much sums up the genre. And believe me, we'll get to that. But considering just that scene and the Supergirl poster that says truth, justice, and whatever, I think it's safe to say they've had a good run and superheroes are cooked.
Yeah, by the way, what's the point of being so disrespectful? Like, was that supposed to be funny? I remember I had so much hope when James Gunn tweeted, you know, like, we're going back to truth, justice, the American way. I'm like, oh shoot, this guy's one of us. Only to bend us over backwards and freaking rail us with a freaking spiked dildo, dude. Freaking loser. Hate that guy.
Come on, whoever did this, just confess. We promise we won't be mad.
But how could you say that? We've got...
By the way, I hated seeing this. Freaking Tom Holland, you already look like you're 15 forever. Same with your wife, which is a weird thing to say, who looks like a 12-year-old boy. If you're going to be Spider-Man and we need to see you as like a more mature Spider-Man, you got to put on some muscle, dude. Where like you look like you're like, the suit is fine, but you yourself look like you just got out of bed. Like, these look like pajamas on you. It's not good.
Spider-Man Brand New Day and Doomsday coming out. Well, believe me, we'll get to that as well. But how do we get here? Well, there is a plethora of videos on this channel explaining exactly why. Keep this from being a 3-hour video. I'll keep this as brief as possible.
I might make it a 3-hour video. Robert Downey Jr. pissed me off when he posted that freaking Instagram post of him reading his damn little comic, and he's like, doing my homework for my new role. It's like, fool, anybody who's read that comic knows that Doom, like Dr. Doom, is just on the cover. He's not even in that comic, you stupid bastard. Oh, these freaking actors, man. And like, you really think that he was the right guy for the job? Come on. Like, there's no way. There's a million other actors who look way better as Victor Von Doom. Gosh, dude, freaking.
To 2020, Paramount and then eventually Disney were eating good with superhero films. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is something we will never see the likes of again. Phases 1 through 3 collectively featured 23 films that all, with the exception of The Incredible Hulk, were moderate successes to box office smashes.
And by the way, I love that Incredible Hulk film. I know its issues. I think the Incredible Hulk film suffered from having so many Hulk movies before that the normies didn't understand that a universe was being created. I think the Incredible Hulk film should have been the last film before either Captain America or Avengers, or the first Avengers movie. And I think if they structured it that way, we would have seen much more success with the Incredible Hulk, because it... yeah, like, we just had the Hulk come out, like a few years prior to that. So it's like the normies are just going to think, oh, look, another Hulk film. I even, as a comic book fan, at the time, I was like, oh, an Iron film came out, cool. And then I saw Nick Fury at the end credits scene. I'm like, oh, sick, there's going to be Avengers. But it just didn't click to me that the Incredible Hulk was going to be in that Avengers iteration. Like, I knew that Hulk was part of the Avengers because of the cartoons. And then I read like a comic here and there. But I always like pictured a Hulk in the Defenders. So maybe that's what didn't click to me at the time. But yeah, man. I think partly to do with its non-success is because of where they put the Incredible Hulk. It's just being right after Iron Man. And it just like if they showed Tony Stark in the Incredible Hulk film as a cameo and then put it on a trailer, then I think I don't know. I think even that would have propped it up quite a bit, where it's no longer a not success.
In a box office total that is approximately $22.6 billion. And that includes the highest grossing superhero film of all time while adjusting for inflation, Avengers Endgame. And the majority of this was accomplished without their biggest character, Spider-Man, and completely without X-Men and Fantastic Four. Turning B-list characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, and yes, they were B-list characters, and Black Panther into household names. Character. A consistency that has never been seen in Hollywood and never will be seen again. And if Kevin Feige would have quit there, his legendary status would be remembered to the end of days and maybe beyond. They wouldn't just name streets after him. They would rename Hollywood Feigewood.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Then there's the other side of that coin prior to 2020, the much maligned Snyderverse, or DCEU. The first three films were destroyed by the corporate critics, and we'll just say there was a lukewarm reaction from the audience, but from the people who do like them, they liked them a lot. And after Zack Snyder had to leave after a family tragedy and the abysmal showing of the Justice League, things actually started picking up with Wonder Woman that was well received by the corporate critics and the audience. Aquaman, which made $1 billion, and a film outside of the DCEU, Joker, which made $1 billion without China. And admittedly, both Aquaman and Wonder Woman had Zack Snyder's fingerprints all over it. But reflecting the problems that they have with their source material publisher, DC Comics, they found themselves in the position of playing catch up to Marvel, a company that basically took everything they started in the comics and did it better. And this all had to do with Warner Brothers. Now, if Disney is Hollywood's most evil company, Warner Brothers is its dumbest due to studio interference, causing all of their problems. And they were utterly dominated by Marvel, except for one thing. Wonder Woman and its success combined with the Me Too Time's Up era made Kevin Feige blink and flush down the toilet a formula that was working just fine.
I don't know if that's the main contributing factor, but it had to be a kick in the nuts to Kevin Feige. It's like, yo, we not only had a successful, lead woman character, make like, I don't know how much money, have it be a success, but we also did it with a crappy movie. And like a full retard movie. Like Wonder Woman is not, that movie is really dumb when you break it down. And why didn't we get a Black Widow movie? Granted, I never wanted one. I don't care about getting a Black Widow movie. Especially after I saw Age of Ultron, I no longer cared about that Black Widow because I'm like, it bothered me a little bit that she never had the Russian accent. And then it really bothered me when she was like all in love with the Hulk and there was no, like, I've always wanted to see Black Widow and I'm always questioning if she's on our side or not on our side, And I didn't get that. So there was no agent. Like, she literally just became a chick with a gun after the first Avengers movie. Like, that's it. That's all she is. She's kind of a hot piece to look at, and that's kind of all they did with her. I know this stuff, but like she could have been so much more. But yeah, like Kevin Feige and
decades of comic book lore that sold in the range of hundreds of thousands to millions, that rushed to adapt a more current era that was filled with race and gender swaps in comic books that were more likely than not canceled, that sold in the tens of thousands, which includes the creation of the MCU. From Kevin Feige, I think we're getting to a point soon where we have so many great female characters that those are just our heroes, as opposed to when they are all female, all male. It's just the Marvel heroes, more than half of which will be women. And since taking a year off from a government overreaction to a cold for both companies, it's been all downhill from there. Disney Marvel decided to go all in on the MCU and the message and bypass this thing known as a plan, leading to diminishing returns that should be taught in film schools. Phase 5 was an era of lore destruction, character vandalization, both male and female, and identity politics. From Black Widow, a prequel about a dead character that performed so poorly it led to the film's star Scarlett Johansson suing Disney, to the good.
Dude, I forgot about that. I forgot that she sued. Man. Yeah, they effed up. They effed up big.
And of Pepper Potts, who was now running Stark Industries, the Falcon not being able to get a bank loan where they insinuated it's due to his race, to the deification of the terrorist Freckle Jesus, to turning the Infinity Stones into paperweights, to attacking fans in She-Hulk, to making Thor a bumbling idiot, to making Nick Fury a fraud, to Hawkeye getting his ass kicked by Kate Bishop and Echo, to making the Kingpin cry, to the abysmal flop that was the Marvels, to centering both phases around the villain Jonathan Majors Kang, who should have been fired for his performance and not.
You see, look, this is also why it's good to have YouTubers pointing this stuff out. You know, those of you that didn't watch the live stream, go back and watch it, but you forget the actual culmination. This is just like the tip of the iceberg. The culmination of the amount of disrespect that came with this new phase 4 and 5 and 6, whatever phase of the hell we're on, just ruining and destroying everything. Like Ironheart chick was like, "Oh, do you think Iron Man could have built this if he wasn't a billionaire?" And I love that people like turned into a meme and just showed Obadiah Stane being like, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. And that's like indicative of what current Marvel views, or at least the freaking retard skanks like that freaking work over there view all the Marvel stuff that came before. And like I've said this a million times. There's no more voting with your wallet type deal, where it's like, this is how we're gonna show Marvel. We're gonna go support this movie and then not support this movie and then tell them like, this is what we like. No, they're going to take that money. They're gonna put something in your face that you most likely like. You're gonna go spend that money, and then they're gonna take that money and then put all that money into 3 other retarded projects that are gonna drain them of their finances, but it's gonna push their ideology. But they keep playing that, so they're always breaking even. So we're not actually doing anything. We're just making it worse.
Alleged allegations.
Yeah, I don't know why I went off on that. My bad.
To the female Silver Surfer.
Yep.
Combine that with bloated budgets, bloated narratives, inconsistent storytelling, lack of focus, horrific CGI, and content overload. It was a recipe for disaster. Speaking of content overload, Marvel Phases 1 through 3 had roughly 50 plus hours in content in total. Compare that to Marvel's Phase 4 and 5, which had a combined 100 plus hours of content, give or take. And if even half of it was good, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Sure, there were successes, and if it wasn't for those bloated budgets, there might have been more, but the only unquestionable ones are Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. Both films were filled with cameos from characters largely out of the MCU, and 75%.
Yeah, and by the way, most of it was nostalgia bait. Granted, Spider-Man No Way Home, it's a good 6.5 out of 10 film. The first 40 minutes is atrocious. And Deadpool and Wolverine, just a trash film. Just garbage all around.
Spider-Man's profits went to Sony. Speaking of Sony, because we don't want to leave them out of this, although they are easy to forget despite the success of the animated Miles Morales films and the inexplicable success of a couple of Tom Hardy Venom films, they've also given us bangers like the memeable Morbius and Craven. You remember Craven came out? And of course, the gloriously awful Madam Web. But there was one more success with Disney Marvel, the holdover Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, directed by James Gunn, who then fucked off to DC, where his first publicly perceived act was to get rid of Henry Cavill as Superman. And Warner Brothers and James Gunn didn't do themselves any favors. Since the Joker's release in 2019, as far as films that have been released in theaters is concerned, they've had no less than 9 flops. That's right, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn flopped. Wonder Woman 1984 flopped. The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, flopped. Black Adam flopped. Shazam! Fury of the Gods flopped. The Flash, featuring Michael Keaton's return as Batman and 2 Ezra Millers, flopped. Let's talk about Blue Beetle. It flopped. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom flopped. And Joker 2 flopped. And their only real successes, The Batman, which is a divisive film, mostly due to its horrible third act.
I feel like, I don't know. Yeah.
And the best thing they've done since Joker 2019, the Penguin series on HBO. And then there's James Gunn's Superman, which was neither a flop or a resounding success. It's the film equivalent of what our pal It's a Gundam calls a gassed up mid. Since 2020, combining TV shows and film, DC, flop, Disney Marvel, and Disney Sony have produced 66 projects. And the vast majority of them have been mediocre to abysmal. Because again, if half of those projects were mediocre to good, we wouldn't be talking about superhero fatigue. I mean, could you blame anyone? Even the biggest fans? Christ, 66 projects?
Well, let me go back to that.
Blame any.
This is what a fan looks like. Like if Disney just were to take a look, like this is the kind of fool that is gonna pay thousands and thousands of dollars to support your bullcrap. Like real fans are like this, and they have pushed these comics that you guys are trying to make movies out of. They kept these things alive. Like look at all that. Look at all that behind you. Think your blue-haired weird freaks are spending even $20 on an action figure? Hell no. Ugh.
That escalated quickly.
And I can hear you now, hypothetical dear viewer. Is it superhero fatigue or bad movie fatigue? And my answer is yes. And now we need to talk about the future of superhero films. We'll start with Sony because this will be the easiest one to prognosticate, and arguably they made the smartest decision by canceling all the Spider-Man villain spin-offs. And they're just going to make Spider-Man movies, and the only one they're really doing...
By the way, that was freaking weird that like Sony just focused only on villains. And mainly as Spider-Man villains. Like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, honestly, it could have been smart if they were, like, they're very greedy. If they worked well with Disney and were like, you know what? How about you guys give us your villains and we'll let you keep using Spider-Man. And that way we can prop up your villains more with our way of doing things. But also... they're retarded, so they're gonna just F everything up anyway. So yeah, like in a perfect world, could have all worked out.
Own is the third Miles Morales film that'll come out someday. Side note on Miles Morales, the co-creator of this derivative character, Sarah Bocelli, recently reported she's getting 0 residuals. Now, while it's an undisputed fact that Miles Morales is Miles Morales, Marvel should still pay the lady. As far as the DCU is concerned, I would say it was looking pretty hopeful until Superman came out and James Gunn started running his yapper, which has been the prime contributor to the DCU being so divisive. Aside from the fact that he should have probably focused more on making a good Superman film instead of planning an entire cinematic universe that he was going to change anyway, including announcing The Authority as your second film, which wasn't even originally a DC title. That announcing
that he put her rack right there. I know that was deliberate. Very nice.
Authority is your second film, which wasn't even originally a DC title that belonged to Jim Lee's Wildstorm. Now, it was a wise move for James Gunn to can that film, but what he's come out with so far is not exactly inspiring. And for starting an entire cinematic universe, it lacks any focus, narrative, or world building. But there is one commonality with all of the projects he's produced with DC, from the Suicide Squad to Creature Commandos to Superman to Peacemaker. They all feature a ragtag group of smart talking, irreverent, and semi-cynical heroes, but mostly anti-heroes, who come together due to some crisis and go on an adventure where they find the true meaning of heroism and found family, all set to a soundtrack of classic pop tunes or music from bands that would fit nicely in a mid-2000s Coachella lineup, which I know is totally different than Guardians of the Galaxy. But in all seriousness, as a fan of most of James Gunn's work, I did question if he was the right guy for Superman.
Look, man, James Gunn doesn't have much work to begin with. So, yeah, he's going to put out some good stuff. But I think he's going to be like, I think he's going to be like a Ridley Scott. Like, he has a few tricks up his sleeve in certain areas, and then just everything else is a mess. But, yeah. And granted, look, James Gunn looked like the right guy for the job, just like Zack Snyder did. Zack Snyder did Watchmen. But there's a common theme. If you pull a Marvel guy over to DC, they're gonna F it up.
And that was answered after I saw Superman. He's not the right guy. So far, we've gotten a cartoon nobody...
But here's a little caveat. I think, I'm not holding out hope, but I think James Gunn is the right guy for possibly the Green Lantern Corps. Because there's a lot of wacky Green Lantern characters. He does good with inbred moron, retard, weird losers. Like, he's good with that. I think he shouldn't touch Jon Stewart, but go have your fun with the Green Lantern Corps. I think you might do a good job. And I've always been of belief when it comes to superheroes and how many comics there are out there, all directors should have a co-director with them to share the blame and share the success. But you're going to keep each other in control. You know, because there's a lot of differing opinions on which comics are definitive and which ones are not. But yeah.
A Superman movie where Superman wasn't very super and the best character was Mr. Terrific. And he's introduced things like prison sex and a drug-filled bisexual adult soiree before things like Batman and Wonder Woman. And yes, Peacemaker Season 2 in particular was as bad, if not worse, than any Disney Plus show. But
yeah, by the way, the Superman film is supposed to draw in families. Okay? Like, I have young kids, right? Little ones. And they love Superman. And there's no way, like, I wouldn't even take them to this Superman movie. Why? The Lois Lane and Superman makeout scenes are pretty hot and heavy. But, you know, you can surpass that. But then you show Green Lantern, a hero, flipping people off. And then you see Superman cussing. I'm not a prude. But Superman is there's a violent like innocence to his Superman comics, to his shows. I love Smallville. There's problems with lore-wise that I have with it. And Lana Lang, I freaking can't stand her after like season 3. But there's also issues like it got too sensual. Like some things got too, it got too much. But yeah, like Superman is supposed to, he's supposed to make you believe that a man could fly. He's the Boy Scout. He is the epitome of good. You know what I mean? And of us humans that we can always strive to be better. And I just don't want my kids seeing heroes being like a regular person. Like, I want them to see them like, okay, yeah, like, oh, heroes don't cuss. Maybe I should hold my tongue when I'm around women. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I don't know. Like, Just me, man.
Absolutely none of it is aspirational or inspirational, something that's vital in a Superman movie and for establishing the foundation of a DC universe. This brings us to the next film of the DCU, Supergirl, who was last seen at the end of Superman's James Gunn, where she called the Man of Steel a bitch.
Thanks for watching him, bitch!
She still has a hangover.
We get it, man. You're
in the freaking yellow sun.
Yeah.
Now, the poster was revealed prior to the trailer release, where it said truth, justice, and whatever. Now, if they had used truth, justice, and the American way at any point in Superman, this might be justifiable, but considering they didn't, it looks like exactly what it is, more nihilism and cynicism. And the trailer certainly didn't help because, again, it opens up with Krypto peeing on the face of Superman on a newspaper. And for anyone trying to justify this by pointing out that Kara Zor-El is also on that newspaper, stop it. The stream hits him right in the damn face, and it was just a bad decision. Sure, good job on creating conversations online, but it's not going to do anything to win people over. The only highlight was a 1 second silhouette of Lobo, but otherwise it just looked like another carbon copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it featured this line.
He sees the good in everyone, and I see the truth.
Just more irreverent, cynical nihilism. In other words, James Gunn's wheelhouse. But if you were wondering why there was so much gaslighting to make Superman look like more of a success than it was, well, we got our answer. WB's for sale to Netflix of all places, which is the worst possible news for any Lord of the Rings fan, Game of Thrones fan, Harry Potter fan, and particular DC fans. I mean,
I was honestly, with the sale of Warner Bros., was not concerned about DC at all. I was like, it's already effed. I was super concerned about Lord of the Rings. And like now I don't even care as much no more because they're trying to recast Viggo Mortensen. Don't recast him, just give him whatever money he wants. Like, dude, he deserves it. There's de-aging technology, get him in there. I'm not like, I don't even care if it's good. I'm okay seeing them again, especially seeing him as Strider and freaking Ian McKellen as Gandalf. But yeah, that was my biggest concern.
Question is, what happens to DC Comics? Paramount is still in the mix, but what it does do is put James Gunn's long-term future in doubt, along with the long-term future of the superhero film being in doubt. And this brings us back to Marvel, whose next two films are undoubtedly going to be massive hits. And that's because both films are going to be absolutely packed with cameos. Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to feature the return of the Scorpion, the return of the Savage Incredible Hulk, and Punisher, among others. And while I can't be specific,
look,
but
I get that Punisher's first appearance was in Spider-Man, but in this movie, it's like, just have it Spider-Man, dude. Like, it might bother me more because the Hulk's in it. Like, I'm okay if the Punisher makes a small cameo and then it's like, oh shoot, and then that's it. But they're going to add more
character's name has already been floated out there. The introduction of the first MCU member of the X-Men. And then, of course, there's Doomsday that features everyone else. A film that may devolve into essentially being Robert Downey Jr. kills the Marvel Universe. A movie I think that's going to be a lot closer to Doctor Strange Mom rather than Infinity War or Endgame. Still, it's going to be a cameo fest that's going to make a lot of money. But as with Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, it is not going to solve the long-term problems of the MCU or superhero films. Recently, the Doomsday teams were revealed, and they were mostly dudes, leading to 5s and 10s of women on Twitter decrying that they need the MCU back, proving collectively that they have the short-term memory of a goldfish, considering we just got the female Silver Surfer and Ironheart a few short months ago.
MCU versus
because they didn't even watch
now,
it,
even
dude.
I was starting to feel it was a little MCU-y the last year or so. Maybe, it sounds horrible, but it was kind of getting crazy. I think Disney overall has had a little bit of an issue with that. No matter how many women you cram into these movies, for the most part, they don't go.
I'm sorry, could you speak into my good ear?
I know what you're thinking. The end is nigh. Grace Randolph just made a good point, but not to worry. She reverts back to form, forgets what she said a mere few seconds ago, and contradicts it.
But I think that we might have overcorrected a little bit. This is an extremely male-centric cast. And I think not only is it male-centric, but it doesn't have any female characters to excite female and LGBTQ audiences. You know what I'm talking about. Those of us who love Wicked, Barbie, the Disney live-action fairy tales, and even Avatar.
Then go watch that.
My best kept secret for starting.
Ad. Like, if you...
Okay. Grace thing.
If you're a fan of that stuff, then go be a fan of that. Leave the superheroes alone, dude. Like, damn. Like, that's the point of being a fan. You love what's given to you and hate when somebody tries to destroy it, or somebody in charge of it tries to destroy it and make it something that's not it, you know? Perverting it. Like, if you like Barbie, go like Barbie. Just don't make superheroes Barbie, you freaking moron.
Avatar is a movie for Barbie and Wicked fans. Anyways, to state the obvious, Disney Marvel has been making movies for those demographics for the last half decade, and as you pointed out, Grace, they didn't show up. Barbie and Wicked Part 1 were successes because they were made for girls and gays, and they need to stop making superhero films for Wicked and Barbie fans.
This movie is for the comic book girlies and gays, so y'all better start reading, okay? I cannot wait for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow to come out.
Paraphrasing my good friend Chris Gore, turning Marvel into a girl brand will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in entertainment history. But again, getting rid of the MCU and replacing them with Cameo Fest doesn't even begin to fix the problem. You need to win not only dudes back, but normies of all makes, shapes, and sizes. But getting an audience back is much easier said than done. Think about this. The movie that technically started it all for Marvel, Blade, can't be made today. Well, they can, but they won't, because they've dialed things up to such ridiculous levels that it's not financially viable to go back to formula, which is what they need to do.
Back to formula.
Yeah, I think they will reboot it.
And that is the absolute state of superhero films. They were the most healthy when you could make a solo superhero film. Long gone are those days, and remember when they made comic book films that weren't Marvel or DC? From 300 to Sin City to Dread to History of Violence to Kingsman to Kick-Ass to Hellboy to The Mask. We had it so good back then. Now, they'll be able to make Batman and Spider-Man movies forever, but keep in mind the next Spider-Man movie is, again, filled with cameos. And what was the last Superman filled with? Cameos, when they should be able to survive just fine on their own against their arch villain. But now everything just looks like Ready Player One. But some of the main components of most modern superheroes that are missing are earnestness, aspiration, inspiration, and heroism. And that's because I think there are very few left in Tinseltown who either believe in that or even know what it means. I think the vast majority see Superman as Homelander. The hero has been deconstructed to death. What they've needed to do for years, and it's possibly too late, is reconstruct a hero. The reason films like Star Wars, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man hit like they did, aside from being great films, is they were well-timed. They were inspirational stories in bad times. And God knows we can use that right now, and I know some might feel that is childish or naive. Well, I'd rather be that than some nihilistic black-pilled twat, because right now Hollywood's just deconstructing the deconstruction. When everything's irreverent, then nothing is. And how in the hell can you subvert expectations when the expectation is the thing we love is going to be subverted? And that's why people are just over it, which is certainly reflected in those box office numbers. And that's why it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that crypto pissing on Superman's face is the encapsulation of the absolute state of superhero films, which is a damn shame, because the degradation of our American mythology, including but not limited to Star Wars, Star Trek, and the superhero film, can match the degradation in pop culture and culture. And that's not a good thing. And we've gone from truth, justice, and the American way to truth, justice, and whatever. And if Hollywood doesn't care, why should we?
Yeah, like, this was a phenomenal video. Sorry if I didn't comment too much on it. I didn't have much to say. Like, the back and forth. I remember explaining to my dad that V for Vendetta was a comic book before it was a film, and The Crow was a comic book before it was a film. And, you know, like, it was like the first thing that kind of opened my parents' mind to, like, oh no, like, comics aren't just like little cartoons for children. They're like, they got something to it. Like, there's meaning behind it. There's like a lot of love, and there's storytelling. There's something very, very cool about comics. And I love listening to people like about comics. And I love listening to people like Nerd Roddick because he actually has a love and a passion for it. You know, he had his own comic book shop. Like, that tells you quite a bit. But the big problem of why we've had bad films is because we don't have people who love it. We have people who may have loved it at one point, but their whole thought process was like, if I get the job, I win. Like, I did it. When back in the day, getting the job was the first step. And then creating comics and good stories were like the second step. And making them perfect was the third step. And like, they wanted to create an entire universe, then they've made it. It's like stuff like that. Like, it's different levels. Like, when you think you've made it when you're down here, and you think you've made it when you're up here, those are the kind of people we need. People who actually loved all this stuff. And unfortunately, we don't have people who love this stuff. But yeah, like and subscribe, douchebags, and subscribe to Nerd Rock.